Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of Inside Tamriel. As always, I'm Guardiangamer and let's get to the news. There has been a lot of commotion in the ESO community over the past few days concerning the patch notes released in the upcoming Craglorn DLC. Most of the things here are very exciting, but something very insidious has been slipped in with the patch. Specifically, players in the public test server discovered that area of effect caps have been patched. This makes it so all player-based area of effect abilities like Impulse, Whirlwind, and Lightning Slash, along with ultimates like Nova and Dragon Knight Standard, affect only a maximum of 6 players. So how exactly will this affect fights? 1. Coordinated players will have a hard time fighting larger groups of players. 2. Zerg rushes will be close to impossible to stop with smaller groups, and Zerging will become the default tactic in PvP. And number 3. Siege engines will become the most effective means to attack large groups of people, and will cause Cyrodiil to become siege versus siege instead of player versus player. Basically, it'll become a numbers game. As others have said before me, target caps are very bad for games. The question people should ask is why ZeniMax would add this feature to begin with. Throughout the development of ESO, core developers like Brian Wheeler said that one of their primary goals was to give organized groups of players the tools needed to fight larger groups if they are well coordinated and use good tactics. What has changed? Throughout the alpha and beta, this idea of AOE caps was not even considered by ZeniMax. Is it because the hordes of new players clump together and get slaughtered because of it? For someone like me who plays a lot of PvP, I understand how it works now, but when I started out, of course, I was inexperienced. It takes some time to get used to it, but once you understand the basics, you can have a pretty good time in PvP. Whatever ZeniMax does, they need to tread very lightly. The community is upset, and they'll have to revoke these things, otherwise they might lose a certain percentage of their fan base. They need to learn the lessons from what happened in Guild Wars 2, and make sure they do not make the same mistakes. If you want to read the full article, head on over to Tamriel Foundry, or the ESO Forum. I'll have the links in the Linkdump below. With the heavy news out of the way, let's head over to PvP in the Wappajack campaign, starting Thursday, April 24th, 2014. From Wednesday, Ebonheart troops continued their push into Daggerfall territory, capturing the forts Aswell and Glademist, along with taking all 6 of the Elder Scrolls by Thursday afternoon. It was during this time that the Aldmeri Dominion made a comeback and captured the forts Brindle, Alessia, Robeck, and Ash. By Thursday night, the Ebonheart Pact was once again in control of the central forts and proclaimed Fixate as Empress once more. In response, Daggerfall staged a counterattack and took control of Glademist, Aswell, and Dragonclaw. Daggerfall troops met stiff opposition from Ebonheart Pact, and both sides sustained heavy casualties into the night. While it was slow going, Daggerfall was able to retake ground after midnight and capture forts Ash, Brindle, and Robeck. As Friday afternoon came around, the Ebonheart struck back with renewed vigor, staging a 2-pronged attack on both Daggerfall and Aldmeri troops, capturing most of the forts in Cyrodiil for some time. While Daggerfall and Aldmeri troops were able to consolidate their holdings and establish defenses near their bases, the Ebonheart troops still controlled the heartlands of Cyrodiil. With an Emperor bonus and all the Elder Scrolls under their control, it'd be very difficult to dislodge them from power. Thanks to Daggerfall tacticians like Egypt, Daggerfall was able to push the Ebonheart troops back out of the Heartlands and push them back all the way towards the Jarl Mountains. But in a shocking twist, the Aldmeri Dominion, who for the most part had been conducting guerrilla actions against both sides, surged across Cyrodiil, overwhelming enemy forces and capturing forts Blue Road, Alessia, Robeck, Brindle, and Ash. As troop counts began to dwindle for the Ebonheart Pact and Aldmeri Dominion in the early hours of Saturday morning, Daggerfall troops seized the advantage and began to sweep across Cyrodiil with little resistance. By lunchtime Saturday, Daggerfall held all the scrolls and nearly all the forts. Over time, Daggerfall lost some of their holdings due to too much land and too few troops to defend. Aldmeri and Ebonheart troops overwhelmed Daggerfall positions and left them in a vicious struggle to defend their lands and the Elder Scrolls. As of Saturday evening, Daggerfall still holds all the scrolls, along with the forts Rails, Warden, Glademist, Ash, and Dragonclaw, along with the outpost of Nikel. But with the other factions pressing their attack, Daggerfall will be hard-pressed to hold out through the night. Alright everyone, and with that we're done. That's all for today's episode of Inside Tamriel. If you like what you've seen here, be sure to stay tuned for more in the future. And as always, I'm Guardiangamer. Good night.